Hello and welcome to Epic Loot Radio, episode 31. Joining me today, Chaos Prime, as always, but we're welcoming back Danny to talk about New World, the experience for the beta, the delay. There's so much news going on right now, it's almost hard to keep up. We've got a couple of topics, but before we dive into our show, I want to thank a few people. WG Productions and Keelan joining the podcast legends over here on Ginger Gaming Radio. Also, we've got more news to come up here just at the start of the show. Guys, if you want, you can now listen to the podcast in MP3 form, day and date with the live show. The live show is going to be 100% moving over to Ginger Gaming Radio in September. So if you're watching this on, Ginger Prime or anywhere in that regards or listening to it, be sure to go check out Ginger Gaming Radio. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast there if you want to participate in these live discussions as that goes on. But also just search Epic Loot Radio wherever podcasts are found, and you can find it. Also, thanks to Luke for his generous donation, making all of this possible, allowing us to do more with the podcast itself. So let's first welcome back Danny to the show, man. It's been a couple of weeks, dude. When we last saw you, you're pirate gaming, you're raging and getting ready for the New World beta, and the beta has come and gone, and we've seen a delay. Talk me through that the last couple of weeks of your life, man.
No, it's good to be back, man. It's good to be back on. Where do you start? To be honest, the beta was absolutely awesome. I think kind of getting back into New World and playing with, everyone who I've been meeting over the weeks leading up to the beta on Twitch and things like that has been fantastic. Getting back into the game and being, we took the beta and turned it quite competitive. We got quite a competitive company, and we had the best time, to be honest. I don't know what more to say. It was really, really fun. I understand that there was some bugs and some issues, and it was, ultimately a test. And some people got really frustrated that some things just didn't work, and I get that. But overall, I had a really, really good time. It was really awesome to. I've been reading about the changes for the last 9 months. Constant changes through the website, all these updates.
Yeah.
It was actually really nice to get into the game and try it properly, stream it, talk about it, and everything. And of
Favorite
course,
weapon from any of it, because they added a bunch of new weapons since the preview. Did you find yourself going "Oh, I really enjoyed this weapon and I was surprised by it"?
Probably the Ice Gauntlet. I didn't play it too much. I typically. If you guys know me, I typically play kind of a frontline heavy type player. So I picked up the Warhammer, of course. And when I found out that the Great Axe had the grav well and it worked very, very well, then when you're on the front line attacking, then that just became my go-to weapons. But the Ice Gauntlet was beautiful. So many things that I didn't think I would enjoy were just really fantastic. And of course. I know you mentioned there about the game being delayed as well. There's so much to talk about. I don't know when to stop, but obviously now the game has been delayed. I think I'm not angry. I'm kind of sad, but I'm not angry. There was a lot of issues kind of that did pop up in the beta that they need to kind of iron out. But I don't know. It's only a month. Someone mentioned to me that they think it's kind of a power play by New World to kind of say, look, we know our game's not perfect. We're going to push it back a month, but you guys can wait, and we'll see you in a month more. I don't know. I'm going to keep blabbing now, but beta was amazing. Big guide about the delay, but I understand it. I understand it wasn't ready. Good to be back.
Did you get to max level at all? Colin Prime says that they didn't try to get to max level in the beta, but they thought they'd save that for the main game. You said your guild was hyper competitive. Did you hit 60? What was that experience?
I got my ass kicked by the company, to be honest, because I was sat around level 30 for most of the beta. Damn, what are you doing? Why are you such a low level? And for me personally, I really I maxed out in the preview last August, so the beta for me was really a chance to kind of just chill and understand the functionality behind, running a town or running a company. And, we had over 150 people. So for us kind of managing a lot of people was a way for us to just figure that out and figure out the crafting between 150 people. And, a lot of our company were encumbered for the full beta because they were just sharing constant materials. So a lot of us used it as a testing for the main game. But yeah, there was a lot of people in our company that maxed level quite quickly. But for me personally, I was just really relaxed and just enjoyed being back in the environment because it's such a beautiful game. So yeah.
Do you worry that there might be even another delay, because people have speculated that 1 month delay isn't enough time, and that people should delay to 2022?
Oh, I don't like talking about these things. I think if they, I mean, I actually have no idea on what it takes to develop a game or to fix the code and things like that. But I've heard through the grapevine that Amazon have quite a big team behind them down, at the studios. So I feel like if they focus all of their energy and efforts on fixing things like the duplication or the speed running or the lag in the 50 versus 50s, and they could squash kind of these, what I would call kind of basic issues, and then launch the game as it is. I think that they can do it within 2 months. I mean, again, I'm talking from I have no idea, but yeah.
I never heard about the lag. What was happening with the lag?
So in 50 versus 50s, our first 3 wars were pretty good. When people started getting to level 40, 50, 60, and kind of the meta became your grav wells, your healing, your ice gauntlets, your fire, people would just stand still. So everyone would kind of rush to a point A, B, and C, and no one would move. Everyone would just be fully lagged out, and you just couldn't play. Too many people in one point just kind of broke the big wars. We even had that in the open world as well. We kind of got together on like the penultimate day with as many people as possible, and everyone came onto the Twitch because everyone's like games just crashed. Like they're not responding. Like came up and it just broke. But yeah, that was difficult.
So that could be actually quite tricky to fix. 14 had that for the longest time, and in the end, they deprioritized the playing characters in preference of the the enemy that you're fighting. But if it's not something that simple, then that could literally go down to a netcode problem. And if it goes down to a netcode problem, that could be something they'll be fixing over the course of the next 6 months.
Right. My kind of experience from like big MMO battles like this comes from Guild Wars 2, and we'd be in the big world v world fights. And this for me is like 8 years ago, and I didn't feel that there was. I know that they reduced kind of player, your skins and stuff became kind of quite basic, and a lot of the skills you just didn't see them. But it never felt like what I experienced with New World, where everyone just froze in a 70, 80 man scenario, let alone in Guild Wars they had a lot more bodies and a lot more things happening. I just thought by now, again, like from a real basic top level noob perspective here, it should work, right? It's Amazon, it should work. But yeah, that was quite game breaking, I guess, for the territory wars. And when we lost Everfall kind of near the end of the game, we had the taxes set to low, and the Covenant guys came in, they took over and they set the taxes to high. Oh my gosh, the abuse that we got for losing the territory and then the taxes going high was hilarious. And I feel like that's such a big part of the game that if it's broken and if people flip territories, then it affects crafting, it affects gathering, it affects kind of.
I love that aspect. I love that sandbox aspect, because one of the things that I've seen, and it's interesting because I do want to get to obviously the just what's all been going on outside of New World as a discussion. We'll have that here in a little bit. But when we look at the core aspect of the game and the sandbox, is that a lot of people continue to say it doesn't have enough content. And I'm like, hey, it's a brand new game. Like, that's the common complaint about any MMORPG. But what you just talked about, capturing territories, flipping territories, control, how it affects the crafting, how it affects the markets, how it does all these things. It's like that sandbox content is engaging. It's intriguing. It has drama. It has its own stories that players are driving to create their own content while we wait for the next chapter of, like a main story quest, which the game originally didn't have. They're adding it in. So I'm going to venture to bet that it's going to be okay, And then maybe if they continue to invest in it down the road, it might even be better and better. But like, do you feel that New World has enough content for you in 2021 to really become your home MMORPG? And then I want to toss that to Chaos as well. But Danny, for you.
Yeah, I think for me, I spoke about it recently, and I very much, I'm a simple man. I very much enjoyed the gathering, the crafting on a real basic level, because I didn't actually do too much of it. And I saw the game as kind of like this adventure game as well. So the amount of exploring you can do, and just just walking around the game, I think has so much time in it for me. But at the moment, for me personally, I think there's enough content, because like you just mentioned there, the amount of you kind of create your own content. As long as you have, even without a company, you can still become like a mercenary and fight for companies within the territory wars, and there's so much to do just on the PvP front, regardless of the expeditions and sort of the end level open bosses and stuff. So for me personally, I think I guess I would be happy for at least 6 months without any new content, just kind of flipping territories and exploring what's already there. But I would like to see maybe like a roadmap or something to kind of whet the appetite for what's coming in the future. And I know there's people have run into the desert at this point and teasing new weapons, all these kind of cool things are happening. But it'd be nice if something official come out from New World to say, hey guys, look, this is what's coming. Enjoy the game for a while. Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about the content roadmap?
For me, the PvP side of thing, which is quite big, is not really for me. I've never been really into PvP for MMOs, and I feel that's a large chunk of this game. I'm coming from an MMO background with Final Fantasy 11 and 14, where it's very story driven, and as long as the story is chunky, and there's enough
chunky
quests,
story. I've never heard it described as that.
That's such a good way.
Can we just take a moment to acknowledge how perfect that description is? It makes me think of ice cream. I don't know why. Like, it's like, I'm sure somebody could take that in a different direction, but I'm like, yeah, it is chunky. Continue on, sir. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. What I'm looking for in New World is a chunky, good story with good, dungeons and encounters and endgame on a PvE front. As long as it can deliver that, then it'll be fine. But I find it's the PvP aspect of it is quite integral to the way the game is, and from what Danny was saying there, the whole aspect of building companies, territories, and everything, protecting that with the PvP aspect of it, I feel the PvE side will kind of be diminished. So I'm not sure. For those people that kind of want the whole package, PvE and PvP, I can see it being enough for this year. But for those people that are just looking for PvE only, I can see it maybe not being enough. For PvP, it's endless. PvP is like a constantly evolving thing, and there's that content just, that feeds off itself.
Yeah.
You win territories, you lose territories. You're always kind of looping on that cycle to maintain that land. Think of it like in Final Fantasy 11, when you would lose one of your areas, then you'd work to get that back. Kind of like that mentality. So for me, the PvP side of things usually live a lot longer. So if you're going in PvE only, I'm hoping there's enough there, but
well,
50-50.
PvE does take part in the undermining of the event as well as the invasion. So there is a mirror element. So it isn't just 100% PvP focused. And I do want to talk about Final Fantasy 14's PvP, because Mystera says, Endwalker World v World, can you even imagine in Final Fantasy 14? Like how wonderful I think that would be. But you also have then I would say maybe even crafting and gathering in terms of that, because the world in and of itself both being dangerous and right now I'm just absolutely addicted to cutting down trees. I have no idea why, but it just is appealing. Is there a raid? No, there's not currently a raid, but that doesn't mean there won't always be a raid. And so I do feel what you're saying, Chaos, is that I've heard a lot of people kind of echo that it needs a raid, it needs X amount of content. And honestly, I think it will. I think it's going to have that. I don't need that all on day one. I think there's enough offering. Now, Danny said 6 months. I think that they would do best to have their first big update at least 3 months after launch, because that's going to help communicate and establish that. At that point, that's when I would bring in the roadmap. I think essentially you launch, you look at the feedback, you listen to the feedback, you prepare your next big update, and then once the update's established of this is what it is, then you sit here and say, great, now that we've shown you what we can do after we've launched, let's talk about what we're doing next. And then after that, because right now I think a lot of people are just going like, well, I don't know. Like if they put out a roadmap for me today, like Chaos and I were there for Anthem, like excited. We saw a roadmap, we saw 2.0, and it didn't mean anything. Like it was just lies upon lies. And it was like, that really, really sucks. And so I don't think Amazon's lying, but I don't think they've shown anything that the average gamer is just going back going like, all right, I trust that that's going to happen, but that's just me, because they're also launching in September, which October you got Call of Duty, and into November. Like when you think of October, November, December, it was like big game season.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, I say launch, let things be quiet, let all the hype go over there. And then in January, you're like, oh, and by the way, did you say Void Gauntlet? Did you say Desert, lands? Did you want more? Did you want a raid? Like that's where it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, have you finished all that stuff and you're looking for something more? Oh, you got a level 30 character in New World? Come on over. Come on back. Welcome. We've got cool stuff for you. I think that's the ideal scenario in my opinion. Now,
I think
go ahead, Chaos.
I think something that hasn't really been spoken about is we're talking about 3 months, 6 months, and that's all fine. But let's just assume 3 months down the line, how easily accessible will New World be to new players? You're going out into the open world. You're going to see people that are very easily leveled. You're going to go into PvP, get your ass handed to you. What is I think that transition is equally as important as releasing new content, because as a new player, you jump in. If you're just getting your ass handed to you left, right, and center by everything you come across, or you're just having to get carried all the way and you're not really experiencing anything, that can equally just put people off. So it'd be interesting to see how they handle that. With 14, for example, they handled that through the story by leveling you up as you're going through the main scenario and pretty much handing everything to you on a plate after every quest. Not the top end gear, of course, but enough to get you by and into what you need to do. So I'll be interested to see how New World handles that, because I think that's going to be a really, really important factor when, 6 months down the line, players come in and are going to feel a little overwhelmed by all the high level characters and want to, because they're in the same area after all.
Yeah.
They're in the same town. They're in the same guild.
What do you think about that, Danny?
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. And you absolutely hit the money. I think one of the things of New World, and we discuss it a lot, is obviously the combat's quite different from what you see in like most typical MMOs, as it were. You WoW and things like that. And I think what New World does a really bad job at is teaching people how to do that. How to embrace the different combat. And we saw it a lot on our server, where we had a lot of PvP companies come together, and if you're constantly let's say on not the losing team but the team of the least people, you always find yourself in kind of that losing scenario, and it's really demoralizing. So like you say, if you're a low level coming into the game and you don't understand the combat, and the PvE side of the game doesn't teach you how to dodge or use your free ability. You only got free abilities, right? So it's different. So
if you
sorry.
I didn't find myself switching weapons though. I found myself just like pushing forward. Occasionally I would. I thought I was gonna be like, fire this, fire this, fire this, switch, fire this, fire this, fire this, switch, and I didn't end up doing it like that. Anyway, continue, please.
Yeah, no, I'll just, but the point is really is that the game, like Kay was saying, is it doesn't really teach you in the early game or the early days of the game on how to be prepared. So even, I like I said, I was pretty low level compared to a lot of the PvP players that I come across, but I always found myself in some scenarios I would win, some scenarios I would lose, and some of these players were much higher level than me, and I really found myself pushing my limits to try and beat high level players with that maybe 20, 25 levels above me. But there comes to a point when I was fighting level 60 players as a level 30, the gear when you hit 55, 60 is very, very powerful, and you really have to really, really be good. But I think New World does a really bad job at teaching people how to embrace the combat, how to learn the combat, how to, your positioning is so important. And I think you can kind of just left click your way through the PvE in the early stages. So, kind of following from Chaos said, when you get to a certain level and you come across a PvP player that's 20 levels above you, the chances are you're instantly going to lose. I hope they embrace that kind of early stage story. They level you up throughout the story as well, but provide you with that knowledge on how to play with the current combat system that's in New World.
How did the gear affect the people you're battling when they were like 30 levels above you?
So I met a lot of people that were like, the scaling's so off. I'm level 60 and someone's level 40 and they're just insta killing me. And people will complain about the scaling the whole way through. And I personally didn't see that because I didn't get to those high levels, so I didn't experience the low levels being better. But what I found is that when you become 60, there is a lot of you get the extra kind of equipment slots, you get the kind of top tier gear score and things like that. So it kind of made that gap between a lower level player and a high level player a lot. So when you did land a hit, it really made a difference. But I didn't feel it was massive. I felt like it was enough that if you were really skilled in the combat, you could still win an out level battle. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It's important because one of the things I often have seen in recent MMO design is that it's all about the gear. The gear is actually visually also it's like not even matter because you got transmog in MMOs now. So it's like just the stat stick, right? Where stats don't, like they just make you more powerful, but they don't make up for skill. And so is the PvP more skill focused or is it more stat focused? And essentially if you can, as a level 30 player, take out a level 60 player, that's a skill gap in which it's a skill focused system with obviously you want your stats to matter, you want your grind and the progress you put in to matter. And so the question will be is that, just like Chaos asked, is like in the long run of things, when somebody is level 1 and level 10 and like people know the system, you have your veterans who live it and breathe it and they're just dominating the game, and then you're like, how do new people come in and get established? Because if new people can't come into the game, that's a bad sign. That's bad. That's not a healthy MMORPG. You want new people coming in because of how exciting and fun it is, as opposed to like you come in and you're just like, I can't even do anything. I personally hope that we'll see some form of like level syncing in terms of like PvE content as well, in terms that when I come in and let's say my brother decides to join me after, like, I'm just raving, yes, I'm level 60 and yes, I could create a new character on another server with him, but I don't want to do that. Come and play this game. And then it's like, yes, let me sink down to your level. That's what Final Fantasy 11 did. It was that, it was awesome because it ended up making the entire game viable. And yes, there are people who didn't like the level sync system in 11 because they felt like, it kind of broke the core classic experience. They exist, people. I'm not making it up. But for the most part, I think it was one of the key defining features of how Final Fantasy 11 solved that problem. And I hope that New World continues to go and solve that problem. One of the things, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, because this is one of the ideas that I really hope percolate to the devs. I put the feedback on the forum, so I'd love your take on it. If you're anti this forum, then we'll just remove them from the podcast. And Danny all of a sudden just disappeared. Now, I don't think it's game breaking, but the thing I found about the beta was I really wished we had more open world leveling. It shifted heavily to the boards and the quests. And I got no issue with that, but we saw people break that. I'm assuming that's going to be that exploit of getting all the town boards doing the quest once and turning it in everywhere and just, leveling up yourself really fast. I felt like the leveling in the open world really took an experience hit. Like I wasn't getting like what I felt would be a good amount of experience to justify. I just want to go out into the world and I just want to kill stuff. I want to farm. I want to find a camp and I want to make that. And that's something I still appreciate to this day in MMOs. And what New World did was they added a bonus experience to your PvP life. The longer that you've lived, if you get taken out, that's bonus experience, right? You take out somebody who's lived a long time, that's bonus experience. And I was like, I don't necessarily think that they need to increase the overall experience that enemies give, but I would love to see bonus experience give to enemies who have a longer life than others. So this enemy spawned in, 2 hours ago. It's got additional bonus experience, and that comes from Guild Wars. And Guild Wars had that system, and I actually always just appreciated it. It was always fun when you ended up killing an enemy, and it was like, oh, there was 300 bonus experience just attached to that enemy, and I wasn't even aware. That was fantastic, and I think that would be a good offset to this power leveling that people have done through their questing. What do you think? Is the questing the more important thing? What do you think?
So they kind of patched it during the beta and extended the time between the town boards because, like you say, people just stood at the town boards all day and did town board, and were taking off all their armor and respawning and going to other towns and didn't use the system in the way it was supposed to be used. So they kind of patched it, but I completely agree that they need to put more emphasis on rewarding people for exploring, I think, and getting people to go to the furthest parts of the island and rewarding them for that. In a short answer, I absolutely agree. I really, really do.
You could stay on the show.
I've mentioned before. My MMO experience comes from Guild Wars. I played that, and I haven't really played anything else. So, even I'd like to see some more. Incentives for, it's the wrong way to put it. It's not a PvE player versus a PvP player. Everyone's a player, but things that bring the two communities together. Like Chaos mentions that he's more into the story behind the game and the kind of questing and things like that. Whereas I really do enjoy the PvP, but a way to bring us together and play the game and fight together and things like that. Whether that's against like an open world, you're talking about raids earlier. I would like to see something from the Guild Wars 2 scenario where there is a big boss that spawns in the open world and everyone goes there together, and the PV, I want for a better term, the fighters would protect your crafters and your gatherers, and you would all be there, in this big, I don't know, something like that just brings people together. There are some of those
bosses in this game. Some people haven't seen them. I don't know if I should say that, but it's pretty cool. they've got some stuff that people haven't seen yet publicly, and it's exciting. I think it's going to be something that will be ultimately, really kind of create these moments to moment thing of like, holy crap, did you see that happen? I remember that when that happened the first time, and more. So I can't wait, and I'm just sitting here just like I'm excited, and then at the same time, I know that in October, like I know in November what I'm doing. Chaos has the literal image behind his head right now with Endwalker. Like I know in November I'm playing Endwalker. I've been able to balance multiple games my whole life, and I continue to plan to do that. Like it's for me the longest time it was Final Fantasy 14 and Destiny, and then eventually Destiny 2. And I'm sitting here going, I think New World's gonna fill that Destiny PvP a hunger that I have, that I love that kind of content. But I know that right out after September, assuming that Amazon launches the game and it doesn't suffer yet another delay, we've got Lost Ark. Lost Ark is a beautiful game. It's actually a really fun game. It's not, I don't know if it's gonna be for everybody because it's that isometric view, it's that Diablo style MMORPG. Have you followed Lost Ark at all, or you've been zoned in 100% on New World?
Personally, I have invested a lot of my energy into New World, my time into New World. I feel it fits me with my PvP passion, and leading a bunch of PvP players. We love it, but I absolutely loved Diablo 2 and the series. So, just that comparison to Lost Ark is definitely, I've looked at it, I've followed it. I haven't, invested too much time into it, but I know it's there and it's definitely something I'll be playing. Whether or not I would kind of look to create content behind it or not, but I want to play it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about you, man? Where do you fall with Lost Ark?
So the Diablo kind of point of view, the isometric, I never liked for the longest of times until I met Ascent, and that changed me. I've been that's a fantastic game, by the way. You
Yeah.
really need to try it. Um with Lost Ark, I've kind of been hovering around it for a while. I've been watching people stream it. It looks really good. I definitely want to try it. It definitely won't be a main game for me, but it'll be a game where I jump in and out periodically just to play around in. I do like the way it looks. I do like the way it's designed. Um, but it's all about how it feels when I play it, right?
Is anybody here worried that Lost Ark is going to cannibalize any of the excitement or hype around New World?
Yes. Lost Ark is a established game. There's a lot of people that have been waiting for a Western release of that game for a long, long time. A few of my friends who absolutely love New World have, or they've already flat out told me that the moment Lost Ark comes out, they're all over Lost Ark. Simple as that, because they've been waiting for it for so long. And I think, and this is what I was saying to you last week, where I think the two releases coming together in, even though it's not that close, but in such a short span of time, is probably a bad thing, because it's going to split the community somewhat. You'll have those people that have been waiting for Lost Ark, and with New World out, it's inevitable they're going to want to go over there, and that's going to be the new shiny, the new fresh thing on the block. So they're going to be wanting to invest time in it and see what it's all about. Or if they've already been following it, actually experience the game and the story themselves now that they can understand it and play through it. And I think that's it. It's a thing. It's gonna take some place. And then
What do you think, Danny?
following soon after that, you've got Endwalker.
Yeah. I don't think Amazon makes any money off of Endwalker, but I'm just like, because they're both behind Lost Ark and New World. Danny, what do you think? Are you worried about cannibalization here?
Maybe that's Amazon's way of taking people's attention off New World while they put their content in the game. No, I mean, I feel that they're kind of, again, like personal opinion, I feel that they're two slightly different games. I feel like I would, a bit of a New World fanboy. I'll be investing my time on New World. Maybe, once or twice a week, I'll spend an evening trying out Lost Ark. But, again, the majority of the time we're back on New World. But again, like my communities and the kind of the people that I, have built to enjoy my content, I think are kind of more heavily PvP focused, and we love the kind of chivalry style type combat games, and that kind of it leads better to New World than it does Lost Ark. But I don't know if it would cannibalize their launch. I feel like what Chaos says makes absolute sense, that people are going to be interested in playing them both. But I feel like New World is in its kind of own. I think they're in their own boats separately, and people would like to try them both out, and then maybe they'll focus on one or the other, whatever suits them best. But yeah,
both have the best business model for exactly that. Now, the only time I've seen a company cannibalize itself, I think it was the EA when they launched Titanfall, like right in the middle of Battlefield, Titanfall 2, right in the middle of Battlefield, and all that. It's like you have two futuristic shooter, like it's like, okay, and then so like Titanfall 2 I think suffered because of its placement in that regards, despite also being a sequel and being multi-platform, where the original on Xbox One as as an exclusive title, like really did well, really sold well for that system. I think the fact, though, the business model for Lost Ark, and especially as it relates to New World, without a subscription fee, Lost Ark being free, I honestly, you said it as a joke about having them, go play Lost Ark. If you finished all of New World and you're waiting for the next content drop, guess what? We have another Amazon game for you. And it's Lost Ark and it's free. Like just go and play it. And then, by the way, like they're keeping you in their ecosystem of two games. It's a very small ecosystem, but I honestly think that's exactly like the right play. The fact that Lost Ark is still was set for October. And even when, New World was set for the end of, August, it's still like, yeah, go and play our game. And then in October, go and play our other game. And then in November, go and play Endwalker. And then in December, like go play Endwalker because you're still playing that game and the raids and stuff like that. But in January, like that's why I think I'm going to be very curious if anything kind of falls in the January and February timeframe for both Lost Ark and New World. It's going to be ultimately interesting for me to see in the long run. We'll have to see how that plays out. All right. I think that's a fun little Lost Ark conversation. I'm with you. Like, I think I'm going to play it. I don't know if I'm going to make content around it in that regards. Like I played it in the past. I've made content about it in the past. I was excited. And then it just kind of said, okay, I said, whenever you're actually coming, because I played the Korean version. I was like, whenever you're actually coming in the States, I'll start paying attention again. And then years went by. Like it's not just like, oh, in the next week they announced it. It's like talking about like I played it like 2018.
Yeah.
Maybe even sooner than that. Like it's been a while. And I was like, this is fun. I would like to play with my friends. And it was jumping through hoops was such a nightmare that it's like, okay, I got a taste. Okay, yeah, this game's good.
Yeah.
And then it's like here's one by. Go ahead.
I was gonna say just very quickly, I think the one thing that has led me to think about it, even if I don't like the game, is that the team behind New World have been fantastic and really, really supportive and really nice. Mm-hmm. Like the content creation team, the people that I speak to, you probably speak to as well. Have been really great, actually.
They've messaged me this week, and I'm very excited about what's happening. So
it's really good, and the support that's there versus, I create some content with another game, I won't mention it, and it just wasn't there, wasn't as, I don't want to be soppy, it wasn't as hopeful, it didn't feel like you meant something. And I'm relatively new to content creation, and I feel like they support you very well, and it makes me want to think about doing it for this game too.
Yeah, you didn't plug yourself at the beginning, but Danny runs the New World Wednesdays podcast. So if you guys are following him over on Twitch, these guys' links and information will be in the description of these videos, audio, and all the good stuff for you guys. So be sure to go check them out. I believe I'm actually going to be on a future show. You invited me, and I was like, yes, we just got to get that on the schedule. So
it'd be great fun.
Looking forward to the New World Wednesday. I've been following your content. Especially as it's like, I want to see some people who've been following New World, and he puts out a really excellent show. Lots of interesting things. You got a lot of really cool ideas. That one game that you played at the end of the one show was so funny and fascinating. Just to see how that you engage with the community that way. I want to take a brief moment to say thanks for all the likes on the live shows, guys, and also if you're watching on Ginger Prime, be sure to check out the top link for Ginger Gaming Radio. Trying to we'll be actually moving the podcast full time over here to Ginger Gaming Radio, the live show, in September. So you have a couple of weeks to make that transition. And if you're watching with us now, I would love it if you're watching on GGR in that regards. All right. Welcome, Crumb Cake. I see that you say you finally got up early enough to catch the show. All right. I want to shift into a little bit of speculative news in this regards. If I pull up the webpage, this was sent over, and it's essentially going on like with what is happening right now in the world. I don't know if this is true or this is not, but obviously we've seen a lot of drama, a lot of frustration with Blizzard. And the reason why I think this is interesting is as it relates to what we're talking about, New World and Lost Ark, and a shifting change in MMOs, like in MMO culture, that we haven't seen in the history of MMOs. We've seen migrations happen. I was talking with a couple of people about when and I did a video on it, when they migrated from EverQuest to World of Warcraft. We saw the mass migration happen back then. EverQuest was the big, man on campus. WoW came in and quadrupled down, or I don't know, just set all kinds of records and really, changed the industry going forward. But now we're seeing maybe a new age, the third age of MMOs upon us, in which we've got that whole shifting paradigm and also new MMOs coming out like New World. But I'm going to read this Blizzard leak post, and this is just speculative. So we don't know if this is going to happen whatsoever, but obviously I think it's interesting in terms of discussion and to kind of talk about the implications here on their end. So, all right, Blizzard Entertainment will become Insight in 2022, a renaming of that classic publisher. Like, imagine if if this comes to pass, like, holy crap, enjoyed this archived highlight clip, everybody. Like, wow, like what somebody somebody called this one, but who knows? Like at the end of the day, Blizzard Entertainment is being dissolved early 2022. It's going to be replaced by a new team called Insight that will be more direct part of the rename Activision Insight. That it's I always feel like I don't even know why we say Blizzard anymore. Much of Blizzard, though, not at all. It will be sacked and replaced with new employees for Insight. Diablo is considered by far the most promising franchise at the present, and Diablo 4 has 3 planned expansions. A remake of the original Diablo is also in the works, and Diablo Immortal will receive a PC and console release a year after its mobile release. An untitled Diablo PvP game will also be in development under Insight, and the Diablo team, like the Hearthstone team, will most likely be unaffected by these company shifts. We just also saw the Diablo team losing, firing its director. Like they're Blizzard, Activision's cleaning house over at that company, and I don't expect anything less. I think this is just the pre-wave of all that. So that would start to say, like, if you're looking at like doubtful and truthful, like I'm really in the doubtful about this post right now, but that starts to be like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But it does feel like they're specifically hitting home, right? Diablo Immortal coming to PC, like that was the core issue that I had with it. Let's take a pause in this news reading. I want to go to Chaos, man. Diablo Immortal PC, Diablo 4. What is this first part of the paragraph? A renaming of Blizzard into Activision Insight. What do you think about that?
I don't think that's real, honestly. The simple fact is, Activision Blizzard Entertainment, it's a name that everyone knows. Why would you change something that is, unanimously known to something completely different? Like, there's no reason for it. Like, I don't think that's real. In regards to Diablo 4 being the most, promising franchise, I mean, when you think about it, what does Blizzard have? Hearthstone?
Mhm.
WoW?
Yeah.
Diablo?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Overwatch.
That's Activision, isn't it?
Overwatch. No, Overwatch is Blizzard. Well,
Is
it's
it?
all Activision. Like Activision owns all of that. Like so.
No, but I thought it was an Activision product before they merged.
No, it was developed by Blizzard.
Okay, so Overwatch. So they've got 4 games. They've got WoW, which is not in the greatest place. Overwatch, which isn't in the greatest place. Hearthstone, which I have never followed, and Diablo, which is trying to rebound after rebound after rebound, trying to get something right. Diablo 3 was a mess. So I can see them cleaning house and structuring stuff about, but I just don't see them renaming stuff.
You don't
I
think the
can also
Blizzard name is tarnished, essentially, like Colin is saying, like when you talk when I think about Blizzard, ironically think about Bill Cosby now, and that it hurts me because I was a huge fan of Bill Cosby.
Yeah. I think they're big enough to ride it through. I think if they make enough changes and get rid of the people that are, that have incorporated the bad ethics within the company,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason why the name can't live on.
Okay.
At the end of the day, if they're doing right by their staff, if they're doing right by their community, if they're doing right by the people, and getting rid of the people within the company that have done wrong, that have wronged, and they've cleaned shop, doesn't that show more about Blizzard being, there for their staff, for their people, instead of the name being completely tarnished?
I don't know. I don't know. I think at some point, like you can things be fixed? So, but yes, does it take a lot of work? Yes. Would Yoshi P want to do a Realm Reborn again? No, he wouldn't. He would rather just, like kind of start fresh, and sometimes that requires a fresh coat of paint completely. I'm not
Of
saying
course.
that I still think I'm doubtful on some of this because just the key things that as it begins with this, maybe even it's been discussed. I could see like some of the stuff being discussed internally, but essentially like from a discussion to actual implementation and making these changes, like so many things can go on during that period. What do you think? What do you think, Danny?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I feel like we've all grown up knowing Blizzard. It's kind of been, whenever you think of Blizzard, personally, I tie it to WoW, and you tie it to one of the greatest MMOs that's ever kind of been out there, and still is very good. But I don't follow it too much because I never really played WoW. The only real game I kind of played from Blizzard was Warcraft 3 back in the day, and I loved it. I have a love for Blizzard in that sense because I grew up playing Warcraft 3, Frozen Throne, and all these glorious games that I used to love. But over the last, I don't know, for me, 3 to 4 months, following the likes of Asmon and things like this, these guys talking about it from a top level, I think it's going to be really hard for them to kind of clear that name. I think it's it gets out to people that have never heard of WoW now know about WoW and now know that it's got a bad name behind it. Seeing it for me on the BBC News, seeing WoW up there with all this bad press, I think it's going to be difficult for them. And maybe from a business point of view, they're just like, screw it. Let's just change the name. But for me as a gamer, I would hate to kind of see the name disappear. I would love, kind of as Chaos says, see them renew their wrongs and put everything to right and come back, stronger than before. But I don't know, man. I've got a very top level point of view on this, but Diablo was amazing for me. So I would always see Diablo as quite a big game for them. And if they're able to bring out something new that's, massive multiplayer and refreshed, and maybe that could be awesome as well.
Yeah.
But
if you guys are listening to the audio version of this, Chaos this entire time has been twirling his mustache. And it's a habit. I like it. I was just really enjoying the visual aspect of that. I was like, oh man, Chaos over here, he's plotting, etc. Crime Cake weighs in, says, my honest opinion is that no, Blizzard cannot be fixed, not because it isn't literally possible, but because Activision simply does not care. And that's where I fall. I think gamers have given Activision a million miles of rope because of the franchises that they have versus EA. Like, EA has done some crap. Ubisoft has done some crap. Like, it's like everybody's guilty of something in this regards. There are no like clean hands, in the business. But when I sit here and I go, yeah, EA, like I haven't been connected to, I guess, the EA's franchises. So when they would do something that like, I don't care. I wasn't planning on playing that game anyway, like no big deal. But Blizzard would do like stuff, Activision would do stuff. And it's like the defense that would come out and excuse it because of who they were, because of the franchises that they were tied into. And I was like, what they've done, in my opinion, is like 1,000 times worse what EA has ever done on this subject. And then it's like, but yeah, bad EA. It's just like became this gaming, like you have to speak this language or you're not a gamer kind of mindset. So I'm Activision's fall or Blizzard's fall in this regards has somewhat normalized the conversation a little bit. We can speak critically about some of these things, about maybe the games and all. I think a lot of that is led into, it starts with the game getting bad, the game becoming an issue. And it's weird right now for me, like as a content creator, because I've been watching one of my videos that I posted back in the spring that I had I hate posting negative videos. We talked about this on previous podcasts, but I played Shadowlands. I got invited in, like, hey, come play Shadowlands. And I was like, I haven't really played WoW. They added controller support. I was like, that's been my thing. I will play. Like, why don't you play WoW? I was like, it doesn't really have controller support, even though you can hack it, even though there's mods. I was like, I want it native. I want it to see here and have it actually work without having to have extra stuff. That happened. I played it and I was like, yeah, I can actually play it on controller. It's not bad. It's not what Final Fantasy 14 does by any stretch of the imagination, but it was passable. And I just like, it's just not a fun game. I was like, I don't have any nostalgia. So playing it as a new player in 2021, 2022, like this game sucks. Like it's not a good game. Like and what the defense is that, oh, you have all people played it for all these years. They've got these memories. And I'm not trying to attack the community. I'm not trying to like attack anyone. I'm just saying that as a new player, I didn't like it. That video has been just blowing up, obviously off the heels. And it's like, and the number one comment tends to be, this aged like fine wine. And it wasn't my intention, but it's that, okay, here it is. And occasionally I see the Blizzard Defense Force, coming in, saying like, oh yeah, it's like, could it be a good game? Maybe, but I think it requires somebody to care. And I think, and the core issue I think that I've said about Blizzard for the longest time is that they have leadership problems. I can see that from the outside in. There's a leadership problem here. And if this is something where they replace the leadership problem, yeah, I think they could turn it around. It's going to be a lot more expensive than if they just replace the leadership problem and all this stuff didn't come to light. But I'm glad this stuff came to light because it's an important conversation that as human beings, we need to continually try to better ourselves and make, the world hopefully a better place. But let's continue in this epic post of epicness. World of Warcraft is entering official maintenance mode. The little work that has already been put into the expansion after Shadowlands will be released 9.3 sometime in 2023. 9.3, despite the name, has nothing to do with Shadowlands, and it's just made up to salvage stuff from 10.0. Classic servers will be merged into merged into one or two with the launch of Wrath of the Lich King Classic in 2023, and this will be the last Classic expansion planned. A new Untitled World of Warcraft successor is in the works, looking to take a lot from Final Fantasy XIV, and it's going to be developed by the majority new team, and that those have made it and worked on WoW. It is not a sequel, but a total reboot with the new core or new lore. Currently only in planning at the stage. The base game will focus on Valinus as Eastern Kingdoms and Outland, which is playable races for both worlds, and is currently believed to not have factions in it, and it will not borrow from Hearthstone. It will remain separate and continually updated with new expansions. A Warcraft Mobile MMO project is also in the works since 2019 and will continue under Insight, focusing on drawing in an audience in China. That makes sense. And it's separate from new PC MMORPG. The last report said that it was canon to WoW, though it is unknown whether this will change with WoW entering maintenance mode. And a Hearthstone spin-off game is coming out. It's going to build off the auto-battler modes. Overwatch is believed to be unsalvageable, failing to capture any modern interest. Overwatch 2 has been canceled, and it will have multiple smaller mobile projects set in the universe. Overwatch in late 2022 will receive the maps and heroes planned for 2, but not the PvE modes, and Netflix original series is in the works. It seems unaffected by these cancelizations. Starcraft has been completely abandoned. There are no plans for an RTS or MOBA of any kind. And because their franchises and lead characters will no longer capture people's imaginations like they used to, there's been a lot of work being done on developing new IP after 3 canceled projects, and that they have been working on since early 22, set in a unique fantasy universe, and it will debut as a gacha-style RPG, and will be announced at either Gamescom or E3 next year. BlizzCon 2022 has been canceled, and I'm certain that you've all guessed that. So, if this is completely fabricated, talk about hitting every single note. Every single note. Was there anything in that list that you would rate true, partially true, or completely false? Starting with you, Chaos. World of Warcraft entering maintenance mode. True, partially true, or completely false?
At the moment, I'd say partially true. I think it's still got more life in it, but the way they've been handling the game has been pretty dire. I've recently actually been watching a lot of WoW stuff in regards to how people have felt with Shadowlands and how the company itself is handling new content, future content, or just listening to player feedback. And it's almost non-existent. It's almost like a one-track thing where the developers know best and the players don't know anything, and what we say goes, and if you don't like it, go away kind of thing. And if they continue down that mentality, I could definitely see WoW coming to an end. Because it's just in a really, really horrible place right now. Classic servers being merged, I think, is the logical way forward because the player population for that has crashed quite hard. So Wrath of the Lich King being the last one, I can see believable. Them remaking another WoW game as a successor, I can totally see that. The simple fact is the original WoW is so dated now. It's not pulling people in. So that I see totally believable. Will they actually, take a lot from 14? That'll be interesting considering how the developers have been quite vocal in crapping over Asmongold, over 14 in terms of how he's been praising it. So to go back and then take the ideas from 14 of what it's doing right, and having that humble pie will be quite interesting to see. I think it's the right move for them to look at other games, see what they're doing right, and then incorporate that into their own game. I think that's 100% what people should do. If companies like Anthem were doing that at the beginning, games like Anthem were doing at the beginning, it wouldn't be where it is right now. You
Yeah.
need to look at other games that are doing things right, taking those and then adding your own flair, your own creative ideas to the mix to make it your own. That's how you make a good game. And the sooner people realize this, the better. So that I can see as a definite possibility, because when I look at WoW right now, it just doesn't interest me at all. At all. Zero interest. Whether it's, and I'm not one for, a graphics person, because I can go back to my normal Nintendo, 8-bit Nintendo, and play games off there. I've got no problem with that. But it's just the way the game is designed. I just can't get it. It just doesn't draw me in. The WoW Mobile, I can see that being a thing, especially in China. That will skyrocket and make millions. Call of Duty Mobile makes $8-9 million a day. A day.
Yeah.
Right?
It's insane.
$8-9 million a day. It makes more than their WoW console counterpart does per day. And that is just through microtransactions. It's insane. So that I can 100% see happening. Hearthstone spin-off. Hearthstone has been a kind of biggish project for them. I know they dwindled it down, so having something released for that could potentially be, especially if it's an auto battler, definitely something that mobile gamers will love. Overwatch has been down in the dumps for a while now, and it's not finding its way up. They're redoing certain things. The last thing I saw was them remodeling their characters, bringing them higher res and recreating the models. That's not going to sell the game. The simple fact is, I think that era for Overwatch has come and gone, and I can definitely see them dwindling down and ending support in 2022, 2023 for Overwatch. And then working on something else to complete, to revitalize that genre if they want to continue it. But I can see Overwatch coming to an end now. It's just gotten to that point. It's not even talked about anymore. This is the first time I've seen Overwatch mentioned in the longest of times. Starcraft, I forgot its existence, so I'm not surprised. And
you didn't even mention any of the thing. We're like, and even chat was like, lol, like we didn't even talk about Heroes of the Storm or Starcraft. It's like, no one is.
But when was the last time you heard anything about Starcraft? There's been nothing for years. It just completely just disappeared. And yeah, I can see them completely and utterly abandoning Starcraft because it just doesn't exist at all in anywhere.
Yeah.
As for going the gacha route, everyone's seen what Genshin Impact has done, and everyone wants a piece of that.
They want a piece of that pie. What do you think, Danny?
I think again, like I haven't really played too much of these games. I feel like Overwatch, for example, I didn't even know they were planning to make a number 2. To know it's been cancelled, kind of like it kind of hits me. It's like, oh, that's kind of sad. But then I'm over it. It's like whatever. Again, like I don't have too much knowledge on World of Warcraft and where it's at, but I've been following the kind of top level conversations that Chaos hit the nail on the head. They just don't seem to care about what people want. And what I would love to see from kind of an outside point of view, again, following from what Chaos said, is that there has been so many fantastic games that if WoW was going to make a comeback, or a remake or anything of the sort, then if they could take all of these fantastic elements from all these new games, even the older games, from Guild Wars, from their own game, some of the stuff from New World, from Final Fantasy, all these things, and kind of put it into a pot and just make it fantastic, maybe with better graphics, maybe with, a new modern feeling. I think it could be incredible, but they obviously, at the moment, if people. When I speak to people about WoW, I'm just like, ugh. No, thank you. And whether that's to do with the team or the game, and maybe just everything combined, people just, people are not into it anymore. So if they're able to kind of, reborn, they can reborn themselves, with one prepared term, then I think it could be absolutely fantastic. And they have the experience to put together a fantastic MMO. I think.
Yeah, I really would to jump in. Like, I really do hope that WoW is in maintenance mode. I really do hope they're done with that. Like, I think they could do one of two things. They could do what PSO2 Genesis has done, where it's connected in some way. So you log in and you can pick WoW, all the way through whatever, or new WoW 2, or what have you. Because essentially, here's the thing: like, in the reason I fall to that specific value, something that New World already does. They don't do it completely yet, but they are planning on doing it, and it's controller support and the potential for console with Amazon Luna as an option. New World could literally come to consoles played through the cloud without having to compromise power and spec, depending on the console, etc. But the fact that it supports controllers, I think, is a really awesome thing. I played New World's beta like with the controller. Like, that's how I played the game, and I intend to play that at launch and going forward. And if they are able to then down the road patch in full controller support, so menus and everything is mappable and interchangeable via that method, that's going to be phenomenal. And so when I look at the state of World of Warcraft, the fact that Final Fantasy 14 is also on console, is also control, like, they are so far behind the ball already in 2021. And it's like that's not something that just happens. Yoshi P made that a mandate from the beginning, and that requires a rethinking. And I go, honestly, the best thing to do for that in this case, especially with it, whether they become Insight or not, is to sit here and say, yeah, let's do another one. Like, it's gonna be, WoW has been out since 2004. Like, here in a couple years will be its 20th anniversary. Yeah, let's celebrate with, guess what? Here's WoW, whatever we want to call it, whether it's a reimagining, but guess what? It's also on console. It's got controller. It does all these things. We've updated the battle system, and we've got more content to come. And I think essentially that's a really good way to bring back that both nostalgic feeling, but also have a new product for a new generation, for a new everything. The world has changed since 2004, and technology has just, jumped light years ahead of where we were in 2004. So the novelty of an MMO, isn't essentially the draw. There's plenty of that. You get that out there. New World, I think, has got probably the most advantage when it comes to what are you doing new, because of how you impact the world. Ashes of Creation promises to do some of that by trying to how you impact with player agency, impact the actual game's world. And I think that's what's going to set the stage for the next, like, golden era, the golden age of MMOs, is that how do players impact the world that they're experiencing? And I'm really curious to see. I believe Square Enix is working on something as well. I don't know if that's, I would assume that's going to be a full engine upgrade, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Otherwise, they're going to just keep doing what they're doing. Before we wrap up, Danny, do you have any final thoughts? Anything you wanted to share before we conclude today's episode?
No, I mean, I think it's been really great for me to kind of talk about something other than New World, to be honest, because my whole life has been filled with New World, and kind of touched on the previous topic there. I think, if WoW does come out again, and we've got Ashes, we've got New World, we've got Final Fantasy, all of these big MMOs are all just really healthy competition to make sure that whether WoW is your main game or Final Fantasy is your main game, is that all of them have this kind of similarity to them, where if there's that healthy competition, and all of these games are just going to get better and better and better, and everyone's going to have a chance to really enjoy these good games. But to kind of wrap up, it's been a pleasure chatting again, and really awesome talking New World, WoW, Overwatch, Diablo. Gave me back some memories of Warcraft 3 there as well. So no, it's been a pleasure, and man, been awesome.
Where can people find you?
So youtube.com/Danny, DANNEH, and over on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/DannyTBH.
All right. And Chaos, you got any final thoughts? Anything you want to share that we talked about today, or anything we didn't talk about?
Mirroring a lot of what Danny said, competition's good. And, seeing other competitors die around you is, I know the fanboys are always lording over it, but it's always bad for the gamer because then it just creates complacency for the developers who have no competition. They can put the minimum viable product out and they know you're still going to be there. So I'm hoping that we do see a lot of, competing games coming through that will keep developers on their toes. Otherwise, yeah, game on.
All right, game on. And and then where can people find you?
You can find me over at YouTube at youtube.com/Chaos Prime ZYT, same name you're seeing in the bottom left hand tag, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Chaos Prime ZYT.
Excellent. All right, guys. And then for me, you're in the right spot for my content, New World, Final Fantasy, MMORPGs. I'm debating if I want to do some Lost Ark stuff. I've been getting questions, so I'm excited. I hope that I have a good launch, but I'm looking forward to September. I'm really excited to dive into New World. I'm really excited about diving into Endwalker in November. And I've been I'm really happy. Life is going really well. I'm just really excited to see where content and the rest of this year takes us. And who knows what's just obviously around the corner. If you guys have been listening to this on Ginger Prime, be sure to check the top link for Ginger Gaming Radio. We will be moving the podcast live streams 100% over to Ginger Gaming Radio in September. So if you guys are, we're not canceling the podcast. It's literally going to be there. You can also listen to the podcast in MP3 format wherever shows are had. Thanks to everybody for tuning in live with us. That has been phenomenal. I really appreciate the support that you guys give. Thanks to all those who have, supported, but also just for being here and watching the podcast. But let's go ahead and wrap up. That's going to be it for Epic Loot Radio, episode 31, Talking New World with Danny, talking the state of World of Warcraft, talking Final Fantasy, and the future of MMOs. It's going to be a fun year. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here. And we will see you in our next episode. Till then, take care.